In this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of crafting your own brutal metal riffs. To kick things off, we need to record our DI, our direct input, and shape our raw sound into a tone. So load up your favorite amp sims and distortion pedals to sculpt a tone. I recommend having a preset ready to go so you can focus on playing and writing, not so much about mixing. But picking a tone will influence your vibe when you're writing your riff ideas. So get your starting tone together and ready. So with your starting tone locked in, it's time to start being creative and noodling around on the guitar. None of the stuff we're doing right now has to be perfect. We're just going to create some scratch tracks. So we're just going to play anything. It could sound terrible. It could be out of time. We just want to get some inspiration and some things out there. So arm your guitar track and start recording. You can play to a metronome if you like, or some drum loops, or even just silence just to get some inspiration and just start playing and see what comes out. So how do you come up with riffs if you're struggling with music theory, or maybe you're struggling with your ear training? You don't really have the ear to hear things correctly just yet. So what's the easiest way to get those skills and inspiration without spending decades mastering those two things? And that's learning other artists' music. Even if you spent 30 minutes just learning another artist's section of a song, it's going to give you some ideas on the fretboard of how to approach a section and get a certain sound. And after doing this a long time, you're going to build up a memory bank of different patterns that you use for writing by playing your favorite songs. And there's an abundance of tabs out there. There's a lot of incorrect ones that kind of teach you the wrong way to play it. So if you can, the best thing to do is get the tabs directly from the artists themselves. Like I bought this tab for the whole album for Humanity's Last Breath's latest album. And once you're comfortable with that, then you can start your own writing process as well and implementing some of those things. So I start off with a chord progression. How can I make it more interesting? And you notice your other favorite artists that add little tremolo picks in certain areas, and they do extra little things like that. So you can go, all right, I'm going to implement those things that I've learned from learning these other artists' songs into my own song that I'm starting to write now. Another thing is, if you have a band, obviously jam with the band, because you're going to spark new creative ideas playing with other instruments, adding bass, drums, and other guitars. You're going to come up with a whole bunch of other things. You might write something in your bedroom, bring it to band practice, and that can spark a whole new direction for that riff. But if you're writing for yourself and on your own, you can use drum samples to do the same thing. There's tons of drum samplers out there, and there's also heaps of awesome packs from amazing drummers out there that you can purchase as well. This can save you a lot of time not messing around with MIDI, punching it in manually. You can just start with some drum loops and get started and start creating music. I like to have one track for tracking and messing around. So what you can do is you can duplicate these tracks and make two others for your left and right tracks. So that's our drums. And if we want to add some bass, so if there's some bass parts, we can just copy the MIDI from the drums down like this, open up the MIDI, and I'd just like to change it back to MIDI notes here, just like that. We could extend them all like this and just change it to the notes that we're playing on the guitar in the MIDI to match up. So this just follows the drums. So the notes that it's following is B, C, G sharp, and F. So that's just a rough section of one part that we just made pretty quickly there. So if I was happy with that guitar part, I could retrack it and get it a bit tighter, or if it was more complicated and I wanted to add some extra parts, say towards the end here, we could build it like building blocks where we could punch in certain parts. So now I just punched in an extra little section there to build upon it. So you can build it like building blocks like this, and it's just gonna make your life a lot easier when crafting riffs. So you just gotta look at it as like you're doing a painting. So you gotta do a rough sketch, and then you do the outline, and then you kind of add pieces and polish as you go along. And as you go along, you'll find some inspiration here. So we could add a fill into this little part here. Let's take a listen and see how that sounds. All right, that's not too bad. So we could transition this into a section maybe where it goes slower, or a breakdown even. So we're going to try this out, see if we're going to transition into this section, see how it works. So I like that little riff there, so I'm going to try and build upon it and fix it up. So I'm going to get some bass in there to see how it's going to sound. So now I've got the notes in for the bass, just going to copy it over, just duplicate it like that. So I've already made 2 sections there pretty quickly. So I'm going to take a listen to the whole thing and see how it sounds. See if we want to change anything or add anything. So it sounded pretty good. Maybe some fills towards the end of these sections here to transition to whatever we're doing next, but liking it so far. All right, so I just added a little section towards the end on the drums, just kind of tweaked it myself there, little ending there. I'm not a drummer myself, so I would probably do this as an example and then send it off to a drummer, either pay them, or if you're in a band, you could send it to your drummer and they're gonna make it and tweak it for you. But that gives you the general idea of what you're trying to create and a starting point. So here I've built 2 sections really quickly, and I haven't added any extra things either, like lead ambience yet either as well, or any vocals, but the same concept is gonna go with the vocals. You can lay down scratch tracks just like guitar, make those scratch tracks for the vocals, even if they're not doing any lyrics, just trying to get some mumbling sounds to see what's gonna work within the song and what sections need lyrics and which sections do not and wanna hold silence. All right, let's take a listen and see how that sounds. So I hope this video helped you out. And if it did, be sure to subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.